subgroup analysis. That's okay. Yeah. So input, forest plot, subgroup. You see many. Go to input. If you're on the right sheet, science students, you will see M1, M2 minus 1, S1, S2. Okay. So this is for the medicine students. For social science students, this is your sheet. You will also go to input, and in input you will see study, correlation, number of subject, subgroup, moderator, etc. Okay, I hope the respective groups have got what I'm saying. The section is being recorded. Yes. So is it done? Have you opened the two sheets? Have the two sheets been opened? Please, I'm looking at the chat quickly. Everyone. Great. And what about the medicine students? Have you got sheet number 3, M1, M2? Can somebody please write medicine? Somebody from the medical field, can you please write medicine and say yes? So that, great. So both the sheet. Yes, so if you're from social science, suppose you're from management, commerce, psychology, human resource, economics, what else is management? All commerce subjects, you can open this, right? Education also open up correlation. Finance correlation. Education, finance correlation. Okay. Medicine, nursing, science, please open the sheet number 3. Great. So let's start. Okay, now I'm explaining a concept through a PPT and I'll be switching between the PPT and the sheet. Okay, I'm just switching off my camera for better connectivity. So this is the PPT that I'm going to do today. So let me start with what is an effect size. Okay, so I told you yesterday that we have 25 horses and each horse has a power, and these are not 25 horses, they are actually 25 study papers. Okay, they are my secondary data papers. They are horses which have a particular power, and I'm consolidating them and taking out one power, average weighted one power. But why do I have to do that? See, in every study, now, if I take the example of social sciences, most of the papers where attitude and intention, okay, bivariate relationship, attitude and intention is studied, most of them report a p-value. They say, listen, attitude and intention are significantly associated, p-value so and so, so and so. Okay, whatever they do, whether they do a t-test or whether they do whether they do a correlation, they always report a p-value. Okay, which says that the relationship is significant. There is an impact of attitude on intention. Now let me go to the medical field. In medical field, most of the studies are experimental. So there is a standard deviation, there's a mean reported for two groups, one experimental, one control. Even over there, when the two means of the two groups, experimental and control, are related, over there also we have a p-value which says that these two means are significantly either related or they vary. So a p-value is there in experimental studies, p-value is there in correlation and bivariate statistical studies. Then what is the need of an effect size? So the answer to this is that p-value only says that there is a relation. But what is the magnitude of relation? That p-value does not show. And here in meta-analysis, we are trying to see the magnitude of the relation. Now, let me give you one example to explain it. Suppose you come across 20 studies where adolescents had been given the SARS-CoV vaccine. Okay, so any SARS-CoV virus that has come, the adolescent was given a vaccine and there are studies for that. Okay, there are some 10 studies you find out, sorry, 6 say that there is a significant impact of that new chemical on the vaccine and the adolescent is safe. There are 4 studies which say that there is no impact of that extra chemical in the vaccine and the teenager is not safe. Now, vis-a-vis social sciences and management, these contrasting results, they are contrasting results. 6 studies are saying give vaccine, adolescent will be safe. 4 studies are saying no, he'll not be safe. What will a doctor do? Tell me. Is it okay to decide that 6 is more than 4? So let me give the vaccine to all teenagers in India. If I tell you, if I tell you that a doctor who has decided to give vaccine, or the government which has decided to give vaccine, has based their decision on this 60-40%, how many of you will be able to take your adolescent son or daughter to the hospital and say, okay, give vaccine? 60% people live now, so okay, fine, give. How many of you will do that? Neither will you do it, nor the doctors do it. In scientific studies, especially when it comes to medicine and nursing, the effect size is very, very crucial. You have to calculate the power of these 10 studies and finally conclude how effective in magnitude is that vaccine. And if it is effective out of, say, 1 being maximum, if it is effective more than 0.8, only then will I give it to a patient. Medicine is a very, very dangerous, very, very dangerous field. Social sciences is easy. If at the same time, let me take a social science example. There are 10 papers. 10 papers say attitude impacts intention. Okay. 6 say they significantly impact, p-value less than 0.05. And 4 say no, there is no significant impact of attitude and intention. Now, we, unlike doctors, don't have to make a ethical strategic decision. So it doesn't matter, we'll consolidate 10 papers. Even if we get results like overall result like 0.4, 0.5, it's okay, it's just an academic number. But for doctors or for medicine people, this number is going to cause life and death. So effect size for any study, be it social sciences or medicine, is a more accurate measure of the accumulation of those 20 studies from the past 20 years. Vis-a-vis p-value, which says there's a relation. And for those of you who do not understand what's a p-value, so if I'm saying there are 2 variables, attitude and intention, okay, I'm going to collect the data from, say, 500 people, okay, and I'm going to compare the means, okay, of attitude and intention. And if they are related in any way or associated in any way, the p-value will be less than 0.05. If it is less than 0.05, the relationship is significant. If it is more than 0.05, the relationship is insignificant. A p-value is present in all sort of bivariate analysis, be it chi-square, be it t-test, correlation, regression. In all these bivariate analysis, you report not only the level of correlation, etc., you also report the p-value. It's like saying, if correlation is 0.5, agreed, there's a relation, but what's the p-value? Is it a significant relationship or is it just by chance? So that is what is p-value versus effect size. Now, let's skip this. Types of effect size. There are 3 types of effect size, and we are going to do almost all 3. Okay, and all 3 have to finish today. So that's my only agenda today. Okay, so there are 3 types of effect size. One is called the D family. Okay, generally people from the medicine, in fact this meta-analysis as a technique actually came from medicine. So the first ever type of effect size which has been calculated has been the D family. And let me tell you, these effect sizes, there are some 100 types of effect sizes. The resultant will always be a number, say 0.4 or 0.8 or something out of 1. But the input that you put in to find out this will vary. Okay, so that is what differentiates the type of effect size. So D value, okay, in this the input is standard deviation and mean. And I'll show you that in the meta essential sheet also. So in D value, what will I do? I'll show you in slides also, but we will pick up, generally done on experimental studies, generally done in medical sciences. We pick up some 20 to 40 papers where the mean and sample size of two groups is reported. One experimental, one control. Okay. We calculate an effect size, which will automatically get calculated through Meta Essentials. And the name of that effect size will be Hedges G, Cohen's D, or Glasses G. Okay, anyone. Here the most common, of course, is Hedges G. Okay, I'll be doing one. When it comes to the R family, the correlation is going to be the input. Okay, correlation from say 40 papers from the past 20 years is going to be the input, and the correlation is again going to be between two variables. Now, if you understand that whether it's the D family, R family, or others, and I'm going to explain to you each with an example, but whatever it is, you see that meta-analysis can only be done when the relationship in the secondary data papers are bivariate. Okay. So either they have to be a relationship which is bivariate, or they have to be relationship which is multivariate. But from that paper, I can get the correlation of two variables. I'll show you everything. Don't worry. Even if you're not understanding, I'll show you this. So I need only quantitative papers for D family and R family, right? And I can do meta-analysis only on a bivariate variable, whether it's reported in a bivariate paper or a multivariate paper. Till date, I'm not aware of, although I have to study more. There are some students who come to me and say, ma'am, there are univariate papers I've got. For example, frequency of so-and-so in India, frequency of so-and-so in US, frequency of so-and-so in UK. So to the best of my knowledge, to the best of whatever little knowledge I have in the past 2 years, and I've spoken to a few experts also, meta-analysis cannot be done on secondary data of univariate papers like frequency papers. Okay, but an SLR can definitely be done on such papers. Okay, so you can't do a meta-analysis, you can't do the calculations I'm going to tell you, but a SLR can definitely be done. Just give me 1 minute, I need to get a glass of water. 1 minute. Okay, yes, I'm back. So let's start with R family, and then we have to do D family, and we have to switch between the slides and this thing. Okay, let's come to R family quickly. Now I'm exactly going to tell you what to do. I'm going to open a paper and tell you what to do. Okay, but what input do you need? What input do social science people need? There is a correlation matrix, okay, which is given in the secondary data paper. On the right side, you can see an example of it. Okay, a little bit of understanding of this correlation matrix is important for pulling out data from this paper. For example, I have very often in social sciences spoken about attitude and intention. Can any of you tell me what in the right side, when you see the correlation matrix, what is the correlation value of attitude and intention? Can someone tell me quickly? I'm eyes on the chat.
0.91.
0.91. Exactly. It's 0.91. Okay. Quickly, for those who do not understand a correlation matrix, it's an X and Y axis. The Y axis has some variables, intention, attitude, etc. numbered. The X axis has only numbers, consider these numbers as the variables which are shown on the y-axis. So that is why 0.91, if you see the axis x and y where it's coordinating, it is attitude and 1. What is 1? It is intention. So 0.91 is the correlation value of attitude and intention. If you know this, you will be able to make an Excel sheet that I'm showing you. This is one published paper. You will have to get the value of attitude and intention from all those 40 papers. I showed you an Excel sheet yesterday. I'm going to show it again. It is not necessary that all those 40 papers are going to report a correlation value of attitude and intention. Doesn't matter. You might just get 8 values. Doesn't matter. Please consolidate them. Pick them up from each paper, make an Excel sheet. Let me show you what that Excel sheet looks like. I had opened it yesterday. Just give me 1 minute. Too many windows open. Here it is. Okay. I'm just sharing it with you. Yeah, it's open. So okay, this one. I had shared it yesterday at the end of the session. Maybe a few of you were not there because somebody had asked a doubt. So this is my Excel sheet. For all my 40 papers, I first make an Excel sheet. It is something like this. Title, author, year of publication, context of study, theoretical model, scale used, location, whatever material I can take, it has to be in an Excel sheet, please. Okay. Any theoretical definition like the definition of green marketing, remember the SLR paper, is of no use to me. I am doing meta-analysis, not SLR. So anything that can be, that the papers can be segregated into, classified into, can be written in these columns. And the value which I'll use for meta-analysis calculation will be 2 values. One is sample size of the paper. This is going to be used. This is going to be used. And the second mathematical value which I need sorry, is the correlation value. Oh, that's too dark. Yeah. So these 2 columns are going to be used for calculations. But the other columns are also, these columns, model, location, sample size, etc. are also, year is also important. I'll tell you how later on. Tomorrow's session, when I do meta regression, then we'll discuss. But now I have, yeah, so I have a sample size and I have a correlation value. Now just see the first paper. Let me change the color of this so that you can view it. Now let me say this is my first paper. Now look at the correlation values. I got the correlation value of 2 variables, urge to buy, perceived enjoyment, urge to buy, perceived usefulness in my first paper. Okay, fair enough. I noted down the correlation. How do you note down the correlation? From the matrix I just showed you. Okay, I go to my second paper. In the second paper, again I get, say, urge to buy, perceived enjoyment, and urge to buy, perceived usefulness, and I note down the correlation. In the third paper, I get, I have not written the data here, but suppose I get urge to buy and another variable called scarcity. I'm just assuming. In the third paper, I don't get a bivariate relationship between perceived enjoyment and urge to buy. Doesn't matter. I get scarcity. I get a third variable. Doesn't matter. I note down the correlation. Sample size, say the third paper had a sample size of 250. I note down the correlation. So I do this exercise for all my 40 papers. Okay, I note down the bivariate correlation of a particular topic that I'm studying. Here my topic is urge to buy. Now you might ask me a question that in the correlation table there were so many values. There are so many values, which to take and which not to take. Now that will depend on your objective. In this paper, my objective was to do a meta-analysis on all the factors which impact urge to buy. Okay, I'm repeating. My objective was to do a meta-analysis on all the factors which impact urge to buy. And thus, I have taken all factors, all correlation values in papers only and only where urge to buy and scarcity or urge to buy and perceived enjoyment have been reported in a paper. Okay, I hope this much is clear. Now, once you do this process for 40 papers, after that, pull out the values of one variable and jot them down together and make one Excel sheet. So here what I've done is, out of the 40 papers, in all 40 papers, I didn't get the correlation value of urge to buy and perceived enjoyment. But somewhere around in 7 papers, I got it. I pulled it out, okay, from the data which you saw on the left side of 40 papers, and I consolidated it, okay, in one Excel sheet. Okay, what is going to go to the meta essential sheet is only these two columns. Only these two columns. Now you might ask me that, ma'am, then what is all this? What are all these columns for? Why have you differentiated papers on the basis of location? Why have you differentiated papers on the basis of research method, SEM or PLSM? Why have you differentiated the papers on the basis of, on what topic they were done? All these, in tomorrow's lesson, they will become moderators or interventions. I repeat, all these are my moderators or interventions. We will do their analysis tomorrow. Today, we are going to just use these two, okay, and do a meta-analysis. Now, quickly, everyone, come to the meta-essential sheet, correlation sheet. Okay, please come to the input sheet. Okay, and this is my input sheet. You must be having some standard values which might be different in your sheet for correlation and number of subjects. Okay, but what I have done is, because my 7 papers were urged to buy and this thing, I have cut, copy, pasted the 2 columns from there to over here. Okay, this is all you have to do. Rest everything the macro will do, the Excel macro will do. This is all that you have to do. And then you have to enjoy the show. By the way, after this, we don't have to do anything. We just have to analyze what are the research results and report them in a paper. This is all we had to do. We don't have to do anything. So I cut, copy, pasted the correlation value and the number of subjects into this, into this file. Okay, you please don't do it because you don't have data. Let it be the standard. I think there are 6 values in the standard sheet. Let them be as they are and understand the concepts. So let me explain to you the columns. There is a study name. Okay, if you feel like giving a study name, well and good. Otherwise, I'm a little lazy. So I just write A, B, C, D. Okay, so study name is not going to make any impact on my meta-analytical calculation of effect size. So we can relax. Include study, there will be a drop down saying that should I include this study or not. Ideally, when I cut, copy, paste the values, they are all included studies. So by default, I can press a yes in all. Correlation value, of course, the correlation value and number of subjects or sample size has been copied already. Sufficient data by default, yes. These 2 columns, moderator, subgroup, please leave them. This is for tomorrow. Okay, so all we need is this much. That's all I need. Okay, I hope you have understood what to do. Now, in your case, it is ready-made. In my case, because I showed you a live paper, so I've cut, copy, pasted. Now the only thing we have to do is click on forest plot. Just go ahead. This was the input page. Just click on forest plot. All your meta-analytical calculations are automatically done in the sheet. You don't have to do anything. All you have to do is report the values, write them in the paper, and interpret them. And then, of course, write managerial or medicinal interpretations of the same. So, let me explain you the values. What are these values and how to report them? So, here we have a value which I have highlighted, maybe it's not highlighted in your sheets, which is correlation value. The title says combined effect size. Now, why does it say combined effect size? Is because those 20 papers which we took from the past 20 years, or 40 papers which we took from the past 20 years, from that we had got 7 values. And this one value, 0.36, is the consolidated value of all those papers taken together for one bivariate relationship. Okay, so here it is urge to buy and say perceived value. Now you might say that, ma'am, if this is for one variable, am I going to repeat this process for every variable for every Excel sheet? Yes, you're going to repeat this process for every bivariate relationship. Okay, number 2. Sorry. Now this is your correlation value. Okay, and we have other factors also. We have other values also which we have to report. Confidence interval, LL lower level, UL upper level. I'll explain what is this. Also over here, you see something called weights. Okay, in your meta-analytical model, just give me 1 minute. Please convert, if there's a drop down, please convert your model into a fixed effect model rather than a random model. What it is, I'll tell you later on. Just convert it into, there's a drop down where it says meta-analytical model. There's a drop down. Please, in this drop down, go to fixed effect model. Now you have an effect size which is changed, 0.38. Okay. Let me explain to you the fixed model first, and then I'll go to random also. Sorry. So now we have a correlation value 0.38, and this is a consolidated correlation value of attitude and intention, or let me say urge to buy and perceived usefulness, whatever I've picked up from the past 20 years. 7 papers out of the 40 I used from past 20 years. Okay, this is the consolidated value. What I'm going to explain to you is confidence level. Okay, and I'm going to explain to you this weight. So you'll see each and every paper has been assigned a weight. Now, why is this weight different? Why is this weight different? Or what is the parameter on which weight has been assigned to these secondary data papers? That is what I'm going to discuss with you. So let's do the concept and we'll come back.
Interruption, sorry.
Yes.
One of the participants asked that his page number 5 is different from what you have shown.
Does it say correlation?
Because you already did the correlation, right?
It's correlation, but the values are different, and there are 12 values. In your sheet, it's 6 values.
No, that's okay. That's okay. That's okay. I cut, copy, pasted these 7 values from the paper I showed.
Oh, okay.
Okay. In your case, even if you have standard 12 values, it doesn't matter.
Okay. But the values are different, so it won't be any problem, right?
That is okay, sir. Doesn't matter.
Okay, ma'am.
Doesn't matter. That's okay. Here, I am explaining you something more than what the videos will tell you. See, the videos will simply show you the meta essential sheet and say that from here what you do. But I am trying to explain you how that person who's made this meta essential sheet, from where did he get the papers? How did he extract data? I'm telling you the whole process. Right? That is why the difference. Don't worry. The values are different, doesn't matter.
Okay.
So, coming back to social science students, I pick up correlation values. Okay, make an Excel sheet, put it in meta essentials, and this is my Excel sheet for each bivariate. So if there's one bivariate attitude intention, there's one sheet. I do the meta analysis, report values. Then I make a similar sheet for a second bivariate, say attitude and subjective norms. Again, do a meta-analysis, report the value, so on and so forth. Now, the value that I've taken is Pearson correlation, okay, and sample size, but you can take papers which have done a t-test, ANOVA, regression, p-value, Fisher's Z, variance. These can also be taken in input, but these have to be converted to correlation. For example, regression value. Okay. So when you do a plus 0.05 or minus 0.05 to a beta coefficient value, it comes nearest to correlation. Okay. I'm just giving you an example. Let's not discuss the calculation of ANOVA and P. I mean, I'm not very well versed with all those calculations, but we have to manually. Suppose you have 7 papers. Now I had 7 papers. Suppose in one of the papers, there's an ANOVA F value reported between attitude and intention. Correlation is not reported, but an ANOVA N is reported. Or say a beta coefficient, regression coefficient is reported between attitude and intention. Now the paper is quantitative. The paper is between attitude and intention, and that is what I had in my objective. But now it is reporting beta coefficient, and ma'am had said it can only be done on correlation. No, it cannot only be done in correlation. You will have to manually convert the beta coefficient value into correlation, and in the meta essential, the values that go will only and only be correlation. I hope this is understood. Now, the parameters that I want to explain to you, because you will be reporting these values, so you should understand. You will be interpreting them in words in the paper. Now, this is what we called a forest plot. Yesterday, somebody was asking what's a forest plot. Okay, so this is what is a forest plot. Now, over here, you can see that there is a study set. So there are 10 studies. Study number 1, there is a horizontal line. There is a square. Okay, in some studies, the square is small. In some studies, the square is big. For example, study number 2, the square is too big. Study number 4, it is minute. Why is this so? I'm going to tell you. Just on the right of this horizontal line, you have a value reported, which is minus 0.65. This is nothing but the correlation value of each study. In brackets, you have the upper limit and lower limit, minus 1.21, comma, minus 0.08. Okay. So now here I have to explain you 3 concepts: upper limit, lower limit, and weights. Now in this horizontal line, you can see that some squares are large, okay, and some squares are small, right? Now, why is that so? Okay, why is that so? That is so because these squares show the weight assigned to the study, right? Now you will see study number 2, 9 and 10 have huge square. What does it mean? It means that they have been assigned a higher weight than other studies. Now you will ask me, who assigns these weights? I will say it is the computations of meta-essentials which assigns the weight. You will ask me, how are they assigned? For that, let me straight away take you to these formulas. Any of you who want to know what was the calculation of weights being assigned? Okay, these are the formulas. So you can see a weighted mean. You can try and manually calculate it. But these are the back-end formulas which are used by the software to calculate the weight assigned to each and every study. This is just for your knowledge. This is not necessary, it's only for your knowledge. So now, weight has been assigned to each study. Now, you will ask me, what is the basis of the weight? For example, let me say study number 1 to 10. If these were subjects that I studied in 10th standard, I remember that for me, I think science and maths were the most important. So I can say that the maximum weight was given to study number 9, which was maths, and study number 10, which was science. Minimum weightage, say the study number 5 was social studies. So even if you got a 95% in social studies, people were not happy. Effect size very huge, correlation very huge, 95%. But what is the weightage given to social studies? Nil. Doesn't matter. 95, keep quiet, sit. But if at the same time in 10th standard, I had got a 95% in maths, study number 9, my dad used to tell me, what should I gift you? Weightage given to that subject, very high. Okay, so how is the weightage decided? The weightage is decided on the basis of the sample size. Why is high? What happens is higher weightage is given to studies which have higher sample size. And you might ask me, why do we do so? We do so because, and by the way, all these concepts that I'm saying, I hope the science students are also listening, because this applies to your sheet number 3 also, standard deviation also. Okay, so the concept is same, only the input sheet is different. The moment all of you come to forest plot, all of us from different domains, nursing, medicine, social sciences, arts, all come on same platform. All of you can open the forest plot sheet in Meta Essential and see, all of you will have similar diagram. The only sheet which will differ, sheet number 3 and 5, is the input sheet. After that, all concepts become similar for you. So please do listen. Okay. It is the same with the students who are going to calculate the D value. Okay. The forest plot is going to be made over there also in D value. The weights are going to be assigned over there also in D value. The weights are going to be given to higher sample size, even in the D value effect size. Okay, now let me go to Meta Essentials and reconfirm if this is being done. And why do you think higher weights are assigned to studies with higher sample size? Because they are assumed to be very, very precise. So I would explain this with one of the things that happened to me. So, when a PhD student comes to me and say, ma'am, I'm doing structural equational modeling. I have a sample of 220 people. Okay. And ma'am, I ran the model and the model didn't run. What do I do, ma'am? I'll fail in my PhD. So I always tell him or her, increase the sample size to double and retest your model. Now, why do I say that? I say that because 80% of the time, when you make your sample size from 20 to 500 or 500 to 1000, your model will run. That is because, as far as past studies are concerned, they say higher the sample size, more accurate is your study. So here another question might pop up. Should we not include the studies, secondary data studies, which have a small sample size? No. Meta-analysis means no bias. Published, unpublished, included. English, not English, included. Correlation or beta coefficient or ANOVA, included. Small sample size or big sample size, included. If that paper is studying or reporting a bivariate relationship between attitude and intention, report it. Unbiased way, report it. So there will be papers with small sample size. Now, what I've done in input is, just for the heck of a demo, you might not be having these values, doesn't matter, but just for the heck of demo, what I've done is, I have changed the sample sizes of a few papers. Now look at this green column, it says number of subject or sample size. Look at study number 1, I have purposely made it 20. I have purposely made it 20. And look at the last study, study number 7, I have purposely made it 1200. Purposely, I have done it. Now, let me see the weight attached to study number 1 and study number. This is my study number 1. It has a sample size of 20. This is my study number 7. It has a sample size of 1200. Let me see what weight the software has assigned on the basis of formulas that I showed you. This is my study number 1. Weight assigned 0.49%. The same is also visible over here in bar charts. Okay. So study number 1, 20 sample size, weight assigned. Look at the weight, 0.49. 0.49. Okay. Study number 7. Remember study number 7? Weight assigned, sample size 1200. Please look at the weight assigned, 34.63%. I hope the point is clear. And the reason of this is that sample size is one of the parameters when we do the mathematical calculation of weights of each study. This is not coincidence. It's a mathematical calculation, and I'll show it to you. So these are the weights assigned, okay, in a fixed model. I'll tell you what is random, but right now in a fixed model, higher percentage is given to studies which have a higher sample size. What happens in a random, that I'll do after a bit of time. Okay, now weights, you're clear? Okay, let me come to forest plot. A little towards the right, you can see the forest plot. The huge green ball that you see over here is the consolidated effect size. If you just take the cursor towards it, it will say 0.38 combined effect size. Although this is the summarized combined effect size of 7 studies, this is not just the combined effect size, it is the average weighted combined effect size. Okay, I hope this is clear. And yeah, so this has been explained. What was left? Yeah, lower limit and upper limit. Okay, you see in the forest plot also there was an upper limit, lower limit to each study. There is an upper limit and lower limit to each study reported over here also. Plus, when we get a consolidated effect size, combined effect size, there's an upper limit and lower limit. These are the confidence intervals. What do you mean by confidence intervals? Although I am saying that my consolidated average weighted effect size is 0.38, it can vary from 0.35 to 0.42. This is what it means. Okay, I hope it is clear. The software calculates mathematically, and I've shown you the formulas also. It actually calculates the upper limit and lower limit of each study on the basis of what? What were the two inputs that we had given it? Correlation and sample size. All calculations till the last sheet that you see, the input will be nothing else but the correlation and the sample size. That is all I've given to the software. Rest it has done itself. Right? So those are the concepts of the forest plot. Now let me quickly go to concepts you have understood. Now let me quickly go to the D family. R family, your work is finished. Let me quickly go to the D family. This I've done. Formulas, these formulas are taken from Borenstein, a book called Borenstein. Okay, so you can refer to it if you want to. Okay, interpretation. I got in my meta essentials, I've got 0.38 as my effect size. The interpretation has to be done to it. Is it small effect size? Is it medium? Is it large? So as per Cohen's, when you are calculating an R family effect size, anything which is somewhere around, say, 0.1 is considered small, 0.3, okay, to 0.5 is medium, and anything above 0.5 is a large effect size. These values, as per Cohen, will change when I am calculating a D family effect size. So let me quickly go to D family. This is my D family. Okay. I pick up studies, only pick up studies where there is an experimental group and a control group. And suppose some XYZ chemical or some XYZ surgery has been done on one group, which is experimental group, not done on the second group, which is the control group. I will collect all secondary data from such experimental studies only. Now, if you say that there is a chemical I'm testing or a surgery I'm testing, but there are no experimental studies on it, or you say there are 5 to 6 experimental studies on it, can I do a meta-analysis? No, you cannot. Can I calculate a Cohen's d? No, you cannot. It's not possible. Especially in medicine, you have to be very, very careful. Now, what does the Excel sheet uh, of a person who's extracting data from here look like? Okay, so let me explain to you. Please look on your right side. This is like my actual Excel sheet. Of course, I don't work on medical studies, so this is not my actual paper, but I've just made it for you. My sheet will have a row called study name. That is very common. I think everyone understands. Then I will have 2 huge columns. One will be called treated and one will be called control. You could also call the treated as experimental and control. Okay, so experimental group and control group, treated and non-treated, treated and control, whatever name you want to give, you can give. That name has no impact on meta-analytical value, so we can relax. Now, from each of the paper of Raw, Weber, Horan, etc., I would need 3 values. Number 1, mean. Number 2, standard deviation. Number 3, sample size n. I am repeating. From each of the papers, I would need 3 values. Number 1, mean. Number 2, standard deviation. Number 3, sample size n. And I would need these 3 values of both the groups. Treated mean, treated control mean, treated standard deviation, control group standard deviation, treated sample size, control group sample size. And I told you right in the beginning conceptually that I take some 120 people, divided into 60-60. 60 is my treated group, so my sample size becomes 60, n becomes 60. And 60 people are there whom I've not given a vaccine or not given a treatment. These 60 become my control group. So in control group, n sample size becomes 60. Now, this is an actual study that I got, okay? And this was a meta-analysis, meta-analytical study on medicine that I got. So what this person has done is that he was seeing the impact of endoscopic treatment on gastrohemorrhage. Okay, so all the patients, say if there were, I'm just assuming there were 120 people on whom in the paper, I'm going on paper number 1. I'm not going to take up those people. Okay, I'm saying in the study of Raw, 100 people were there who had gastrohemorrhage. Okay, 60 of them, N Raw's paper, N for treatment group is 60, N for control group is 60. 60 of them were given endoscopic treatment. The patients of gastrohemorrhage were given endoscopic treatment. And in the control group, 60 patients who had gastrohemorrhage were not given endoscopic treatment. Okay, now please don't ask me what's endoscopic treatment, even I don't know. Okay, so 60 were given endoscopic treatment, 60 were not given. After a certain period of time, the bleeding level of the people treated with endoscopic treatment was noted down. Okay, of say 60 people, and the bleeding level of those 60 people who were not given endoscopic treatment was also noted down. Okay, the mean of those 60 people's bleeding level in treated group came out to be 94. The mean of those 60 people in the control group who were not given endoscopic treatment, their bleeding mean came out to be 92. Okay, I'm just reading the first row. If you see, I'm just reading the first row. The standard deviation in this case for the treated group came out to be 22. The standard deviation in case of the control group came out to be 20. Now, this is my data for one paper. One row is only one paper. I have to collect it for, say, at least 8 values to do to calculate an effect size, and at least 10 values if I want to go into advanced moderator analysis and meta regression. Okay. If there aren't 7 papers where experiments have been done on gastrohemorrhage patients for the intervention called endoscopic treatment, by dividing the groups into treated and control, I cannot do a meta-analysis on it. I hope I'm clear. I'm repeating a few things, but I hope I'm clear. Now, calculation of effect size. Okay, I'm coming to formula. So this is the formula. Okay, to calculate the effect size, Cohen-D, Glasses G, Hedges G. Okay, taken from Borenstein.
Sorry for the interruption, madam.
Yes.
Will you repeat the last point what you told?
Last part, what I said, sir, if there aren't at least 8 to 10 studies on gastrohemorrhage patients to judge the intervention called endoscopic treatment through division of those groups into treated and control group, if 8 papers of this structure are not there, obviously the values will not come. And if the values don't come, I can't do a meta-analysis. That is what I said. Okay. So these are the formula. Okay. These are the formulas of standard difference pool is calculated. Okay. The N1, N2 you see is nothing but sample size 1 and sample size 2. Sample size 1 means sample size of treated group. Sample size 2 means sample size of control group. The SD1, SD2 you see is nothing but standard deviation 1 treated group, standard deviation 2 control group. And the M1 and M2 that you see in the formula, you don't see any other value. You see 3 values getting repeated in all formulas. The M1 and M2 that you see is nothing but the mean 1 and mean 2. Mean 1 treated group, mean 2 control group. Okay, so these are the formula. If you want to see Borenstein, you can go further and see. And finally, through a meta essential sheet, I'm going to go there. You calculate a same thing. If you go to the forest plot, if all of you go to the forest plot, all of you will see a consolidated effect size, combined effect size, reported over there also in the same exact row and column as was in the correlation sheet. But the interpretation of Cohen-D is a little different from Cohen-R. In medical science, if the effect size is somewhere around 0.2 to 0.5, it is considered small. 0.5 to 0.8, it is considered medium. And only an effect size of all these papers taken together and weighted means and formulas done, the combined effect size of 0.8 and above is considered large. The reason why there's a difference in the interpretation of the R and D is because in medicine, you have to be at least 80% sure you're treating humans. That is the reason the interpretation of the Cohen-D large. For social sciences, anything about 0.5, it's okay, report large. But for medical sciences, anything above 0.8 is the only and only thing that you can report as large. Rather, the larger the better. I mean, I would not like to go for a vaccine, even if a meta-analysis has reported exactly 0.8. I would like to go for a vaccine for a teenage daughter only and only when I see a meta-analytical study on the COVID vaccine reporting at least 0.9 and above effect size. Okay, so that is about the Cohen-D. Effect size is over. I have another 10 minutes to do a very important topic. I'm just sharing.
Madam, how to convert betas into R if R is not given in
that
the
is a mathematical formula that you'll have to find out. Whether it's ANOVA, whether it's beta, they are mathematical formulas, and that the books have to be referred for that.
So, but we can't ignore the paper if R value is not given.
I don't think you should, sir. Actually, beta coefficient values and p values make your work difficult. Especially in
Okay.
Meta Essential, it makes you difficult. There are paid softwares like Comprehensive Meta-Analysis.
Yeah, that I know.
That
Because
that takes all sorts of values. So you can put a t value there, you can put a p
Okay.
value there, beta coefficient. So there you can put. But in a Meta
Okay.
Essential macro,
Okay.
it accepts only
Okay.
correlation. So you'll have to manually calculate and put it into.
Okay, so if beta value can be used in place of R, for if it is we are doing the work on CMA.
Yes, sir.
No,
Because you know, because that software, it's a paid software. It converts. It doesn't take the same value. It already
Okay.
has formulas to convert the beta into correlation or
Okay,
convert the
all-
p value into correlation.
Okay, so all that we have to do is just enter the value of beta in that,
Yes.
and it gets converted.
Yes. Yes.
Okay,
Okay,
thank you, madam.
so,
Thanks
yeah.
a lot. Thanks a lot.
So let
Ma'am,
me,
a little question I also want to ask. Are we
ma'am,
considering?
yeah. Ma'am, just
are
wait for 10 more minutes.
Okay.
10 minutes, huh?
Okay.
Because I have to quickly wrap up
Okay, no issues. No issues.
let me finish this sheet and I'll come to questions straight away. Okay. Yeah. So this is for the medicine and students. So you see in study number 1, M1, M2, S1, S2, N1, N2, standard format has been reported. But if you see in study number 2, M1, M2, okay, and standard deviation pooled has been reported. If you saw the formula from S1, S2, I can calculate standard deviation pooled. So even if a paper is giving you standard deviation pooled, not S1, S2 separately, don't neglect it. Please take it. Okay. There are other papers which you might find which don't give you an M1, M2, but they give you an M2 minus M1 and a standard deviation of 1. 1 means, see, 1 over here means experimental group, 2 over here means treatment group. So 1, 2 means it is nothing but experimental and treatment group. So different values can be taken, and this is your sample size. N1 means experimental group, N2 means control group. So 1, 2 is experimental and control group. Now, once you've inputted these data, it also takes t value. Sometimes, you know, in a paper, you straight away get sample size and Cohen's d of the experiment. You can take that also. So because of course, you know, these macros are more well developed for medical studies. In medical studies, it's giving you a choice of variation. Okay. So these are the values you can enter. And the other columns are same: study name, include, sufficient data by default, yes. Subgroup and moderator we are going to do tomorrow, so don't bother. And straight away go to forest plot and see. Now you are at par with the R. The only thing is convert this random into effect. Fixed effect. Okay. Same concepts apply for you. Hedges G, upper limit, lower limit. There's an extra column which you will get standard error. Okay. Same thing applies for you. For every study, you'll get a Hedges G. There I was getting an R correlation effect size. Here I get Hedges G. I get an upper limit, lower limit, weights assigned. How are the weights assigned? The highest weight will be given to the high sample. Same concept as correlation. Same graph, same forest plot. Okay. So the concepts for you are absolutely same. The only difference is, and it's not necessary that experimental studies are only going to be done by science students. Okay. Sometimes you can also do experimental studies with social sciences also. Okay. For example, I'll give you an example. When we show an ad to a person, so when we show this thing to a you know, when even in social sciences, suppose I take a set of 100 patients. Okay, I take a set of 100 consumers. 50 people I show the ad, and 50 people I don't show the ad. 50 people I show, 50 people I don't show my ad. Even in that case, I will get a standard deviation, mean, and sample size of each of the groups. The ones whom I show the ad will be called experimental groups. The one whom I don't show the ad will be called the control group. And I could do the same process and calculate the effect size, the Cohen d effect size for my paper, but I should get at least 10 papers on advertising as an intervention, done on different people, okay, divided into control and experimental group, and the mean calculated for each of them. I should get such 10 papers to even be able to do a meta-analysis. Okay, the house is open to questions now.
Madam, how to import the forest plot into the Word document? Because most of the papers that I have seen have shown the forest plot. So in the research
The
paper in the
forest
Word
plot is generally shown in appendices, okay, appendix, and you can just right click and copy. It's a basic, like you copy from Excel, sir. It's a
That's
basic
all.
Excel sheet.
Okay.
Yeah. It's a basic Excel sheet. It's not even a software. If you see, it's a basic Excel sheet.
Okay, even in CMA also we can import forest
Yes.
plot?
Yes.
Okay, just right click, copy and paste. That's
Yes. Or else,
And
if
madam-
that doesn't work, go to file and import.
Okay. And madam, some papers have, instead of giving the R between the all independent variables like attitude, subject norm, and purchase intention, they have given R of only the independent variables, that is attitude and PBC, subject norm and attitude, so on and so forth. So how will we get again same taking the beta value and converting it if it is meta essentials?
I didn't get it, sir. You are getting which values for these relationships?
Only the value, only the R between the independent variables, that is attitude and subject norm and PBC.
Sir, just a second. Sir,
Ah.
please don't collect papers and then decide your objective. What is your objective?
My objective is to do a meta-analysis of user wherein theory of plant behavior use in case of purchase intention of energy efficient products by households, energy efficient appliances by household, or electric saving intention by household. So I have collected 30 such papers. 30 papers.
Are they all on household?
Yeah, household only, exclusively.
Are they
Okay.
all on energy based, whatever you said?
Yeah. All electric
Okay.
saving intentions.
Okay.
And
Okay.
almost all of them are giving the R values between the purchase intention and subject norm, attitude, and PBC. But
Okay.
2 or 3 papers have not given the R value at all, or they have given the R value between these three.
Sir, you mean to say they don't have the correlation value?
Yeah.
R
correct.
value is supposed to be when we get all correlation and calculate meta-analysis, that is the R value.
Yes, I understood, madam. It is the table that you have shown.
Yes.
Yeah.
So
In the
all
beginning of the class.
papers are not giving correlation values. That is what.
Yeah, there are 3 or 4 papers which are not giving.
What value are they giving?
Madam?
What value are they giving?
Beta values are there.
Beta coefficient is there. You can convert it to correlation.
Okay, but what is the formula for that? That's
Sir,
what I asked.
in case it is positive, the correlation is positive, you add 0.05. In case the correlation is negative, you subtract 0.05, something like this.
Okay.
So I'm not sure about the.
Okay. But suppose the beta value is already more than 0.5, and if we add 0.5, then correlation.
0.05, sorry, 0.05.
That's what, 0.05.
0.05, yes.
0.05.
Yes, 0.05.
Okay, then it is fine. If it is 0.05, not
Yes.
0.5. Okay.
No, not
Right.
0.5, 0.05.
Okay.
It comes
Thanks a lot.
nearer to correlation, right?
Okay, thanks.
Right.
Thanks a
Thank
lot.
you.
Ma'am,
Thank you.
Okay,
a
ma'am,
very
now I
lame.
want to
Okay,
ask-
one second.
my
One
God.
second. Can we please raise hands and I will let me go one by one. Can
Okay.
everybody who wants to ask a question, please raise your hand. Okay, Neha Saini, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Ma'am, my question is that whether it is R, whether it is beta coefficient or T statistic, whatever it is, if it is, we have to take only if it is coming out to be significant, or if it is not
No.
significant, can also we take that?
Ma'am,
Or if it
even if
is-
it is non-significant, we are supposed to be taking it. Ideally, if you go by books, so according to Rosenthal 1979, who says that publication bias is inevitable, he says that please take values which are insignificant also. I'm going by the books.
But ma'am, if the value is insignificant, we usually consider it as 0. It is not having an
No,
impact.
it's not about considering, ma'am. What does the correlation table show? I
Let us
showed
say
you a code.
correlation is insignificant. So should we take it or not?
We should take it. So if I go back to my slide, now see over here in the core, just a second quickly, in the budge, what happened?
In
Acha.
your slide, I think all were significant.
Were they? Because there must be
Yes,
an, no,
they all were significant.
they are all significant. Yeah, they are all significant. But even if they are insignificant, according to Rosenthal 1979, you can take them. I'm
Rosenthal,
going by the books.
1979. And
Yeah,
similar,
Rosenthal, I'll just write it. Wait a second.
okay. And similar
So-
thing goes with the beta coefficient as well. If the beta coefficient is significant or insignificant,
Yes.
we have to
Yes,
take it.
yes,
If the
yes,
sign
yes.
is negative, we will put it as negative, and if the sign is positive, we have to take it as positive.
Yes. So please read a little about Rosenthal 1979 publication bias. He says that researchers don't take insignificant studies. It should be taken.
Rosenthal, okay. But there is no demarcation or no difference between the significant and insignificant.
No, ma'am. As far as I have read the books and I've read about bias, Rosenthal says that you should be taking the insignificance also.
Okay. And one more thing, ma'am, I want to ask. In any of the meta essentials sheet, we are having below correlation, we are having confidence interval and prediction interval. Which interval we do need to report in our research paper?
Oh, I forgot this. It should be the confidence interval. I forgot the. Meanwhile, while you're asking, is that the last question, ma'am? Do you have any other question except for that?
No, ma'am, I don't have. any
Fine,
other
fine.
question.
So we can go to Detri. If I'm not wrong, Detri has her hand
Right.
raised. Meanwhile,
Yes,
I'm just showing
ma'am.
you the table. Yeah.
Yes, ma'am. So I had a very layman question. So there's no way we are not making these sheets, right? Like the forest plot, subgroup analysis. These are ready-made, and we just need to copy paste our correlation figures and the number of studies. That's it. And it just gets populated on its own.
Yes. So, ma'am, if you can see on the screen, this is an actual research paper. Okay, where this is the first table that we made. We have done half the table. Tomorrow when I do heterogeneity with you, we will be doing this. We will be finishing this table from here till here. Now for attitude intention itself, 19 studies have been taken, as in 19 studies have been taken. If I take the sample size of each of them and calculate them, so in 19 studies, a total of 6117 samples were taken, and the consolidated average weighted effect size came out to be 0.6, and this was the upper and lower limit of the effect size. This is exactly what we have done. We have done only one row today. Okay, and the same
So
has
this
to be
is
done for
non-predicted one or the class or the first one? Confidence
this is,
interval
ma'am,
or prediction?
we don't report the predicted level. We always report the CI, confidence interval.
Right, right. Thank you, ma'am.
This answers your question. Yeah. Yes. Next, are there other questions?
Yes, ma'am. I asked about how we arrived at those sheets. Like
How the
how did we arrive at those sheets, like a forest plot? These are ready-made, right? These sheets are ready-made.
Yeah.
We need to just supplement the correlation value and the number of studies.
ma'am, see, forest plot is just a graph. Let me show it to you. So forest plot, what is a forest plot? See over here. It just has an x-axis and a right axis. Okay. On the x-axis, you see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, which is nothing but the study number. Okay. Y-axis, you see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, which is the study number. Look at the x-axis. The x-axis effect size. Okay, so it's just a magnitude. The scale starts from minus 4.00 to positive 3.00. And what we have done is a simple graph. Forget a forest plot. It's a simple graph between. So study number 1, okay, say it is minus. It should be minus 1 point something that has been plotted. Study number 2, minus 2 point something, it has been plotted. So this is how it's been done. It's a normal plot, normal graph basically.
Okay, Mr. Raju can ask questions. Next question.
Yes.
Dr. Raju.
Yeah.
What?
Good evening, madam. Coming to my question is, a lot of studies have been taken place. In that, some has used some advanced tools or techniques. Some might have used not advanced tools. Okay. So in that case, how we are going to consider the articles, publications, and how we are going to do that meta-analysis?
So in most of the papers that I have come across, they're either done, see, you either do a subgroup and meta regression or you do a meta sem. These are the two types of advanced tools that I've come across. Either meta sem, okay, or subgroup analysis and meta regression. So I've seen A grade papers. Do I have it? I'll just see if I. It's there on my desktop. Let me open and show it to you. So this paper has only subgroup analysis and meta regression. We can go to the next question, sir. I'm just showing you the paper.
Okay, next
Okay,
question.
thank you,
Mr. Vishwanath Sundar. Over to
I'm
you.
just showing you a few more papers, right? Yeah.
Good evening, ma'am. So you have explained different families of effect size. So for the experimental study, you have recommended only the D family. So if I have a specific topic of having a few experimental studies and few general papers having a correlation regression, so is it possible to combine both
No.
and do it?
No.
Okay.
No.
Okay, Miss.
So see, correlation is based on some statistical logic. Association. Okay, so chi-squares and t's and all, they are all based on same logic. 2 means varied, means there is association correlation. Not varied means they are not. But so standard deviation, mean and n, if you see the formulas are different, how will you calculate?
Oh yeah.
I don't know if it is possible that all standard deviations be converted into a standard deviation mean if there's a process of converting them to correlation, but I don't know of any such process.
Okay.
Excuse me, ma'am.
Yes.
Ma'am, I have a question.
Yes.
Ma'am, if in a paper there is this multivariate analysis done in which we find two of our variables which are relevant for us, suppose attitude and intention, and in that multivariate analysis, beta is reported.
Yes.
So can we use that beta directly?
Yes, ma'am. We've been talking about it for so long. We can use beta coefficients.
Okay, it doesn't need any conversion.
It needs conversion. It needs to be converted into correlation.
Okay, okay. And for that there is a you were mentioning some comprehensive meta-analysis software which is a paid one.
Yes, which is a paid.
Okay.
So if otherwise you'll have to do it manually. So like you see here everything is automated. You just have to report and write a paper. There you'll have to manually calculate it.
Okay. Okay.
Okay. And this just a second, ma'am. The previous question, this is one of an A-star Journal Academy of Marketing Science, A-star. Okay, and this is a paper. I'm talking about our coefficient, our effect size. Okay, now these are the hypotheses have been set. Okay, and I'll show you what they have done. So hypothesis has been set and review of literature has been done in a normal way. And then they come to inclusion criteria. Now they come to meta-analytical procedure in which they say that effect size has been, and mind you, when you calculate the effect size, you have to say which formulas you used. So where he says I used Lipsy and Wilson, in my papers, I write Borenstein. Different softwares, different books give you different formulas. So you're supposed to be telling which book and which software you used. Okay, and then let me come to the table. So he's even written the formulas, okay, from books. And let me see the table. So this is his table. Okay. So he reports a Cohen D, and he has K, which is the total number of papers. He has N, which is the sample size, lower limit, upper limit. Okay, and look at this. He's done a subgroup analysis. So he's divided into subgroups. I'll do subgroup analysis tomorrow. But all he's done is subgroup analysis means dividing into subgroups. So he's divided into 3 subgroups and done nothing but a basic meta-analysis, which I've taught you on it, right? So, and this is meta-regression. It is not meta-sem. Meta-sem we are not doing in 3 days, but this is meta-regression. Okay, till here I will tell you till tomorrow. And yeah. So he ends the paper with model 1, model 2, all this is, these are all beta coefficients meta regression. Okay, so these values Q, R square, they are going to come tomorrow. They come in meta regression. Okay, and that's it. Discussions has started and that's it. He's ended it. So he's ended the whole paper, and this is an A-star paper. He has ended it with subgroup analysis and meta regression. So we can also do that. And there are some papers which don't do subgroup and moderator, they only do meta-sem. For meta-sem, at least there are videos of Dr. Neeraj Kaushik on meta-sem, but I think they are in Hindi, if I'm not wrong. You can check if they are in English. Dr. Neeraj Kaushik, please find him on YouTube, and he has videos about all concepts of meta-analysis, starting from the basic till meta, subgroup, meta-regression, meta-sem, everything he has. Right? Yes, Pushpak sir. It's time already, so I think we should make it quick. Yeah.
Yeah, my question is in similar line to what day 3 asked. Like, I understood about the interpretation of all the variables and all the units, but while making my paper, then how will I use this forest plot? How will I come up with this plot? Like, there are many formulas, so I need to like type it manually and come up with this.
No, sir, as far as I remember, from Borenstein, I used to cut, copy, paste those formulas.
Okay.
And give the reference of Borenstein. I haven't stolen anybody's work. Now, the formula is that in Borenstein's book. The same formula is being used in Meta Essentials. The formulas of Borenstein are being used in comprehensive meta-analysis. So the moment I say I've used the comprehensive meta-analysis software to calculate my values, or I have used the meta essential, it is nothing but using Borenstein's formula. From where did comprehensive meta-analysis software take its formula? These are just softwares which have automated things, you know. Where did they take the formula from? They took it from Borenstein. So that has to be mentioned.
Ma'am, I understood this, but about the softwares, like which software do we use to make this forest plot and all? Like in Excel only we can do it.
So it's there in Meta Essential. Why do you have to use some other software? It is automatic now. It is made. Just a minute. So if this is your sheet, sir. Here on the right side, you have a forest plot. Why do you have to make it? So it's already made.
So only we need to add the values and then it will change and it will come up.
Oh, yes. Acha, that ways. Okay, let me tell you. You want me to experiment? Okay, here.
Yeah, yes.
I'm changing values. You want me to say what will happen if my data set changes? Okay, yeah, I'm changing values. I'm changing values. Here you go. Okay, now give it 1 second. And then if you go to the forest plot, just a second. Here, sir, combined effect size has already changed to 0.44. We were at 0.38. Already changed.
Yeah, ma'am. Understood.
Okay. Forest plot already changed, sir.
Okay. Thank you.
Right.
Ms. Naina asks, what is the upper and lower limit of the confidence interval?
So upper and lower limit is how can it fluctuate. So if I say my BP, for example, nowadays I think oxygen is a very, very big problem with this. So if I say BP, so if I say that my BP should be somewhere around, the lower limit should be somewhere around 80. That's the absolute thing. But you know, even if my BP is 70, I'm okay. And even if it is somewhere around say 90, it's okay. So that fluctuation, confidence interval, how much of a confidence do I have at 95% assurity that my BP will fluctuate from say 70 to 90. That is what it means. And the lesser the confidence interval, the better the precision. Suppose I say my BP fluctuates to 120. That doesn't
Only
mean.
water.
Oh, sorry, I mute already. Yep, ma'am.
Yes, yes.
Hello.
Yes,
Hello,
yes.
ma'am. I have a question. Like when we calculated Cohen D, so are we supposed to take only the RCTs in that because we need to have the experiment and the control group?
Yes.
And
Yes.
in a medical field only we have those values
No,
in
no.
our RCT?
No, Nidhi ma'am, not in medical field. As I gave you an example in social science also. So sometimes, you
ma'am.
know, to 50 people, when we show an advertisement, that becomes an experimental group.
Okay, okay.
And when we don't show advertisement, that becomes a control group. So experimentation is.
And when we calculate like Cohen R or in our family, we can take in that we can take like RCTs and case controls and cohort as well. Like only observational studies have to be excluded, na, which don't have those values.
Ma'am, only qualitative studies have to be excluded. And any study where a correlation or a beta coefficient between your two targeted variables has been given, you can take it.
Okay, ma'am.
But an experimental study is never going to report correlation.
Yeah, definitely.
Right.
And ma'am, one more question, like when do we take this fixed model and when do we take random model?
That ma'am, I'll tell you tomorrow. We are going to do fixed model, random model, quickly heterogeneity, Q value, and then we'll come to meta regression.
First question will be from Mr. Vishwanath. Before that, I want to remember one question, that in case of medicine, we have seen about only experimental issues, but what about observational studies?
Any study where you don't get values of SD, mean, etc., you cannot do a meta-analysis. Please go for an SLR.
Okay.
Yeah. So if you're in medicine, if you're telling me that I want to do a meta-analysis on the physical symptoms of COVID, okay, suppose rashes or something of that sort, which we observe and then report, please go for an SLR. A meta-analysis cannot be done in that. I need numbers for meta-analysis. It's a statistical technique.
Last question will be from the Mr. Vishwanath.
Ma'am, just want to ask, what is the difference between the fixed effect model and the random effect model?
Sir, tomorrow's
Okay,
session.
okay.
It's a
That's
concept.
what I thought. It's okay, ma'am.
So I think we are done. Yeah, we are done. Miss Nana also asked same question. Random effect model, fixed effect model, difference in
Tomorrow
we
first thing.
will add this.
Tomorrow maybe we have a little elongated session. Please be ready for a 6 to 8 because there are a few more concepts which are left and I will finish them. So assume that you will be with me for 6 to 8.
Okay. Thank you so much. So everyone. Okay.
And
Take
any
care.
further questions, please put them on the WhatsApp.
In the
Like
chat box,
yesterday, any questions, please put them on the WhatsApp.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. Goodbye. See you tomorrow.
See you tomorrow. Good night to everyone.